Daniel. Where did it all go wrong? It seems like just yesterday we were watching you embarrass people with your late-breaking moves at Red Bull. Now, with only a seat at Haas left free, which he doesn't want anyway, Daniel's career may finally be coming to a close. For a driver that promised so much so early on, things really went wrong for Daniel very quickly. With presumably just a few races left in his career, let's take a look back at the rise and dramatic fall of Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo reached Formula 1 through Red Bull's Young Driver program. Back towards the start of the millennium, the path to Formula 1 wasn't quite as clear-cut as it is now. Max Verstappen ended the era of drivers who you'd literally never heard of turning up on the F1 grid. He didn't have a history of winning series, with just a single F3 title to his name. But Red Bull just saw something in him and knew that he had what it took to race in Formula 1. Ricciardo was given the chance to make his F1 debut at the British Grand Prix, with struggling back-of-the-grid team HRT. Ricciardo remained at the team for the rest of the season, showing gradual signs of progress and faring well against his more experienced teammates. That earned him a promotion to Toro Rosso's race team, which was the Red Bull B team at the time for 2012. At Toro Rosso, Daniel Ricciardo was paired with Jean-Eric Vergne, another promising Red Bull junior driver. Ricciardo was quick to deliver on the point-scoring potential of the STR7, coming home in 9th in his home race at Melbourne. The two teammates went hammer and tongs against each other for 2 years, but by the end of the second season, it became clear that Ricciardo was the better driver. When Mark Webber retired at the end of the 2013 F1 season, his fellow Aussie got the call to drive for Red Bull. Ricciardo joined the reigning champions just as their grasp on the title was slipping. Next to Mercedes' dominant W05, the RB10 was clearly second best. This was the beginning of the hybrid era after all, but the RB10 was capable of winning races, in Ricciardo's hands at least. To the surprise of many, it was not the reigning 4-times champion Sebastian Vettel who took Red Bull's 3 wins that year, but the new addition to the team. In the eyes of many pundits and fans, Ricciardo had the best performance out of anyone on the grid in 2014. The W05 was just unbeatable. Early in Ricciardo's second season at Red Bull, it became clear there would not be a repeat of his 2014 triumphs. Despite hard work in the off-season to rectify their engine problems, Renault arrived at the first race of the season with persistent drivability problems and poor reliability too. There were more missed opportunities in 2016 when Red Bull were again in race-winning shape. One came in Spain where, having led the early stages, a questionable strategy call dropped Ricciardo off the podium. What made the loss even tougher to bear was that the victory went to his new teammate Max Verstappen. You might think that Max's arrival was the beginning of the end for Daniel, but it wasn't quite as clear-cut as that. Before we talk about the turning point in Ricciardo's career though, let me tell you about Established Titles, an incredible company that's preserving the natural woodlands of Scotland and helping with global reforestation. This amazing last-minute gift makes you the owner of 1 square foot of land in Eddleston, Scotland, and Established Titles plants a tree with the global charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. Saving the planet is obviously amazing. Maybe it's something Daniel could do now he's retiring. But this gift grants the recipient something even cooler. There is an old Scottish tradition of calling landowners lairds, which is lord or lady to those of you who don't live in 15th century Scotland. By gifting someone land in Scotland, you give them the right to call themselves a lord or lady, and they get a certificate to prove it. You can add lord or lady to your credit card, plane tickets, or even your FIA super license. You do have one, don't you? The first 200 people who purchase a title pack using our link will get their plot pretty much directly next to mine. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a lord now and I expect you to refer to me by that title in the comments. This isn't just an amazing last-minute gift. We could also start our own little Scottish kingdom. Established Titles is actually running a massive early Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use the code F1Reverse, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/F1Reverse to get your gifts now and help support the channel. While Verstappen's arrival at Red Bull may not have been the immediate cause of Daniel's downturn in form, it was the last time he would regularly compete for race wins. Ferrari raised their game in 2017, relegating Red Bull to the 3rd best team again, so Ricciardo's 5th place in the points was realistically the best result available. It was 2017 that saw Red Bull really start to lean towards Verstappen. Despite the lack of pace in the car, Max finished incredibly strong, picking up 2 race wins in the final 6 races after only being on the podium once before then. It all changed in 2018, however, when a rather rash collision between the two at Baku saw them both facing the heat from the team, instead of only Verstappen, who was far more aggressive than Ricciardo. Verstappen had already extended his contract to remain at the team, while Ricciardo's future remained in doubt. Daniel was no longer the top dog on the team. He had to share with Max. Perhaps he saw the same thing happening to himself that happened to Sebastian Vettel when Daniel joined Red Bull. Vettel left for Ferrari, became the main man, and instantly found as much success as was available outside of Mercedes. At the end of the 2018 F1 season, Daniel Ricciardo made a shock move to Renault to build a team around him and do something similar to what Lewis Hamilton had done so successfully at Mercedes. The problem was that Renault weren't Mercedes. There wasn't a huge change in regulations that gave them the chance to suddenly propel themselves to the front of the grid, nor did they have the massive financial backing of Mercedes. While moving away from Red Bull may have been the best step for Daniel at the time, it was the effect of that decision that may have brought about his downfall. Red Bull, having switched to Honda power, again came away from the 2019 season with 3 victories. Renault didn't score a podium. Daniel realized he'd made a mistake. As much as he wanted to be the main man on a team, he wanted even more to win. That's what Formula 1 drivers want. That is why they race, to win. Daniel had made the choice to move from a team where he could win to a team where he couldn't, and he panicked. The problem was he had nowhere to go. Mercedes had the perfect team in Batman and Robin, aka Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Red Bull weren't going to take him back. Christian Horner was absolutely gutted when he left. A move to Ferrari was the best option, but the team went for Carlos Sainz instead. So Daniel went to replace him at McLaren. That brings us to Daniel Ricciardo's stay at McLaren. Life at the British outfit started in a rather uncomfortable manner for Ricciardo, as he was unable to adapt his driving style to the car. Meanwhile, his teammate Lando Norris outperformed him for pretty much the entire season, except for a handful of cases here and there, with one of them being the Italian Grand Prix that Ricciardo won. The 2021 season was somewhat written off by the media for this very reason, as it was assumed that the car under Ricciardo was not to his liking. At this point, his reputation was still riding on his time at Red Bull. The media said that Renault hadn't been able to provide the car to let Daniel truly compete. But he'd been inconsistent anyway, even if not regularly on the podium. Then at McLaren, the car was blamed again. Everybody fondly remembered clips of him late braking in a Red Bull and doing shoeies on the podium. But in reality, by the time the 2022 season started, Daniel's form had been in decline for 4 seasons already. The 2022 car just showed how bad it had got. Don't take this the wrong way. We're huge fans of Daniel Ricciardo here at F1 Reverse. He has been an incredible driver. He's by far the best personality and most interesting driver in the paddock, and he will continue to have an amazing career around Formula 1. But as a driver, he's been on his way out since that first bad decision, leaving Red Bull. And that is where we think the crux of Daniel's problems lie. It isn't his bad form or cars not to his liking. It's his terrible luck when making career decisions. In hindsight, leaving Red Bull was an awful mistake, as they refound their competitive form the year after. If he would have stuck around at Renault, he could have been reaping the rewards this year in a car far better than his current one at McLaren, and on a team that he would have been the centre of. Fortunately though, as one door closes, another one opens, and this won't be the end of Daniel Ricciardo's Formula 1 career. Although nothing has been signed, ESPN believes Daniel has all the qualities needed to add to their Formula 1 coverage. The Aussie says we can still expect to see him around the Formula 1 paddock in 2023, and what better way to enjoy it than as part of a broadcast team? His effervescent personality would be a highlight of whatever coverage he did. He would have the knowledge to provide insight and the humour to make it accessible to all. He's obviously a tremendous personality. That really resonates with the fans, especially in this country, said ESPN's President of Programming and Original Content, Burke Magnus. Daniel is already massive in America. Formula 1 is growing there as well. I can't think of anyone better to help propel those viewer numbers even further. Will you miss Daniel as a driver? Or do you think he'll have more to offer on the coverage team than he does on track? Let us know in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.